When you get to the Teichen of the Yom Tif of Shmini Atzeres and Simchas Torah, it's like all in Yonim of Torah that we have the interpretation and the explanation the way it's Misad Nigla the Torah, and there's the explanation the way it is Misad Pnimius HaTorah. And both, Api Nigla and Api Chsidis, there's an explanation to what's the Teichen of the Yom Tif of Shmini Atzeres and Simchas Torah. The Inyan, the way it is Api Nigla B'Pashtus, is the way it's brought in the Torah, that the Simcha of Simchas Torah is that we're smechim l'gemara shel Torah. Since on Simchas Torah we read Parshas Bracha, and with them we conclude the reading and the learning of the Torah throughout the year. So it's an inyan of Gemara shel Torah, and therefore we rejoice in Simchas Torah in connection to the Gemara shel Torah that we just finished. Brings the Beis Yosef right away over there in the Torah that what's the mocker for this inyan that we make a special simcha l'gemara shel Torah. So the Beis Yosef brings the Medrash. The Medrash says that the marker for this inyan is from Shlomo HaMelech. What's the story from Shlomo HaMelech b'kitzer? That Shlomo HaMelech, the Eibusha came to Shlomo HaMelech and asked him, what does he want? What does he prefer? To have wisdom, to have chachma, or to have ashidus, to have kesef ezov? And Shlomo HaMelech preferred and chose to have dafka, the inyan of chachma. The Medrash concludes, and the Medrash says that right away, the Shlomo HaMelech, Vayikat Shlomo woke up from his dream, and he saw that the chalim was Eimad al-Kani, the chalim that he saw, from the vision that he saw from the Eibishter, was accurate. Why? Because he heard animals talking, he understood what they were saying. He heard his birds chirping, and he understood what they were saying. In other words, he woke up and he understood that he had, the Eibishter gave him an enormous amount of chachma, at k'dei kach, that he was able to understand even the Safa of the Chayis. He understood that all the Chachmas Shabba'ilam, the Eibusha has just given to him. So right away concludes the Medrash, and he says that right away the Shlomo HaMelech went up to Yerushalayim, and he stood in front of the Aron B'ris Hashem, and he brought Karbanis, and he made a Mishta L'chol Avodav. He celebrated, he rejoiced in this major gift that the Eibusha gave him. Concludes the Medrash, says Amar Rabbi Lezer, that Mikan, from this what we see, the way Shlomo HaMelech rejoiced in the gift that the Eibishter taught him all the Chachmas Shebe'elam, we learn that Eisim Su'uda L'Gemara Shel Torah, that just like by Shlomo HaMelech, that when he received all the Chachmas Shebe'elam, he concluded all the Chachmas Shebe'elam, because that's what the Eibishter gave him. The Eibishter gave him everything. So we see from Shlomo HaMelech that when he had Kol HaChachmas Shebe'elam, he made a major celebration. So us too, when we have an inyan of Gemara Shel Torah, whether it's a sim of a Masechta or a part of Torah, Alachas Kama, we're speaking of Simchas Torah, that we conclude the entire Torah. It's a time to make a special celebration. It's a time to make a special simcha, and that's why we rejoice on Simchas Torah, because over here we have the inyan of Gemara Shel Torah. That's the inyan of Simchas Torah the way it is b'Parshas Al Pi Nigla. What's the meaning of Simchas Torah Pi Chsidis? So in Chsidis, actually, we ask a question. The L'chura, in the Maimarim, we ask that there's something not understood, Taka, that why do we rejoice, Simchas Torah, why do we rejoice in the inyan of Torah on Shmini Atzeres and Simchas Torah? L'chura, the day of Torah is Shavuos, is Ma'amatan Torah Seinu, it's Ha Yemid Kegadim, is the inyan of Torah, so seemingly it would be appropriate, if we want to establish a Simcha of Torah, when should that be? How does that fall into Shmini Atzeres? Simchas Torah, l'chura, it should be in the Yom Tov of Shavuos. That's the kasha that's asked in the Maimarim. And the tivitz that's given, the explanation that's given is that the Simchas Torah is taka celebration of Torah, but of which Torah do we celebrate Simchas Torah? We don't celebrate the Torah which was given on Shavuos. We don't celebrate the Torah of Ma'amatan Torah Seinu. We go celebrate the Torah which was given on Yom Kippur. We're coming b'hamshach to Yom Kippur, and Yom Kippur, Yom Chasunas is Umatan Torah, which then the Eibishter gave the Luchas Shnias. So, guard the Simcha of the Torah of Shmini Atzeres is not the Simcha of the Torah of the Luchas Rishenis, which the Eibishter gave on Shavuos. It's a different Simcha. It's a Simcha on the Luchas Hachrenis. And in the Maimarim, we add a deeper explanation that what's the great celebration, Dafka on the Luchas Hachrenis. The Dafka on the Luchas Hachrenis, over here, Yidden stood in the Maila of Tshuva. The B'shas Luchas Rishenis, B'shas Eibishter gave the Torah l'chatchila b'matan Torah. So Chazal tell us the B'shas matan Torah paska zu amasam. The B'shas matan Torah you didn't have any inyan of Yitzhahara, any inyan of Ra, Charus al luchis, Chazal say atikar charus al cherus. The Yidden were freed from all inyanim of misa, all inyanim of ra, and therefore they stood in a matzav of tzaddikim. Mashain came when they were cheta and cheta egel, and they did tshuva afterwards. And the Eibusha said on Yom Kippur slachta kedvarecha and gave them the luchas achrenis. So dafka over here b'shas luchas achrenis, b'shas Yom Kippur. Dafka over here, Yidden are in the mile of about tshuva, and that's why there's the great simcha of Simchas Torah. Dafka b'hemshech Yom Kippur. That's the beer of the explanation. So in other words, what comes out is that if we want to understand what's the simcha of Simchas Torah, comes out that Al-Pi Nigla is one beer, and Al-Pi Chassidus is a second beer. Al-Pi Nigla, the beer is that we're Sameach b'Pashtos and the Gemara Shel Torah, from the fact that we finished Torah. Mashiach and Al-Pi Chassidus, the beer it's a different inyan. The beer of the inyan of Simchas Torah Al-Pi Chassidus is that we're going to Sameach on the Luchos HaAchreinis, nothing to do that necessarily with the Gemara Shel Torah. That we're Mesameach on the Luchas HaAchrenis, and in them Gufa, what's the Nekud in the Luchas HaAchrenis that we're rejoicing is in the inyan of Tshuva Dafka. What's the Shverikait here? The Shverikait here is that we know that Chassidus and Nigla is referred to as Gufa Neshama. There's Gufa Deiraisa, and then there's Neshmasa Deiraisa. Just like by a person we see that there's a Guf and there's a Nefesh, so although a Guf and a Nefesh are Repashtos, two entities that are very far one from another, a guf is a tangible, gashmistic thing. Masha'inkin and nefesh is a davar ruchni v'naila. Nevertheless, they're not two separate entities. The guf and the nefesh are behesim zelazah, and when the guf and the nefesh are mischaber one to another, they're mischaber in such a way that they become one, and they become one mitzias. Prati says there, in the guf we see, and in the guf and the nefesh we see, that the koyach hari'iyah is mislabish in the ayin, the koyach hashmi is mislabish dafka in the oizen. In other words, although that the ayin gashmi and the oizen gashmi are very far from the koyach hari'iyah ruchnis and the koyach hashmi ruchnis, nevertheless, the way guf and nefesh work is in such an afin that the koyachis hanefesh, the inyanim hanafshim, the inyanim ruchnim, are behesem and lifi erech ube'afin kazeh, that they're taken by in the kelim in the klei guf. The klei guf, the guf is a keli for it, and therefore there has to be the klei masimatit. And therefore, dafki in the ayin there are such inyanim which is behesim to the keach hariyah, and dafki in the oisin there are such inyanim which are behesim to the keach hashmiya. And halderach is in the close inyan guf, that the guf is a kli, dafki the guf ha'adam is a kli to the nefesh ha'adam. So same way we understand that the pashas the way it is by a person. Halderach says also when we speak in Torah, it's not the pshat is that we have two Torahs chas v'shalom. There's one Torah which is the guf of Torah, and another Torah which is the neshama of Torah. No, the guf and the nefesh, the nigla and the chassidus, the galia and the pnimius and the sasim is one inyan, is one entity, and they have to be behesim about tamazulazu. Rather than the same concepts, the way we understand in yanim of halacha and in technicalities, the way it's in the world of guf, comes the pnimius and gives us the neshama therefore, the oimek therefore, the ruchnis therefore, and so on and so on. But not that it gives us a different inyan, not that it gives us something different. Over here, we see if Chassidus would come and explain that Nigla explains the what's Sichas Torah, Gemara Shel Torah, and the Pnimis would come to explain the oimik of what's Gemara Shel Torah. What's going on? For example, let's take a mitzvah sukkah. So api halacha, what's sukkah? The man yedu deresechem is sukkah shaftis b'nei Yisrael. Comes Pnimis Latena and explains what's the oimik of his sukkah shafti, what's the inyan in ruchnius, what's the inyan in lamaila, what's the inyan in the nefesh of yid, and so on and so forth. So we explain the nefesh and the chayis of this inyan gufa. But to come and say a different beer that it's a psanad inyan in ganzen, what's the pshat in the roof? And over here comes out that when it comes to Simchas Torah, it comes out l'chura that the pnimis, the neshama, the chassidus is something which has nothing to do seemingly with the beer the way it is al piniglu the Gemara Shel Torah. That's one thing that we have to understand here. Another thing we have to understand here is even in the beer of chassidus gufa, what's the kash over here? The Maimarim answer that what's the celebration of Simchas Torah, the inyan of luchas ha'achrenis, what's there in luchas ha'achrenis that there's something to celebrate, something much more than there was in the luchas ha'rishenis. L'payol in Shavuos when the luchas ha'rishenis were given, we don't see that a special celebration was made. And dafka in the inyan of the luchas ha'achrenis, dafka there we make a special celebration. What taka is the mile of the luchas ha'achrenis that calls out a special celebration? And the fact that the Maimarim add and they come to say that which element in the luchas ha'achrenis are we celebrating? That we're celebrating the nekuda of the tshuva which came with the luchas ha'achrenis is haguf tzarich beer. What's taka leaked in the inyan of tshuva? That element, the dafka, that calls out a special inyan of a simcha, of the great simcha that we do in Simchas Torah. And which is more than the simcha that we do in Kol Hashana Kula. So to understand this all, not the beer and the rif is fakert. Not that according to what we said before, dafka over here, dafka in the beer of Chassidus, in the Inyan of Simchas Torah, we see even more how the biurim of Pnimis HaTorah are not a separate Inyan from the biurim the way they are al pi nigla. Now forget dafka over here, dafka in this sugya, we see how much Chassidus and how much the Pnimis HaTorah is the neshama and the emek of these inyanim gufa. Let's say not the emek of the question of why did we establish Simchas Torah, the Simcha of Torah, dafka on Simchas Torah and not on Shavuos, is dafka mitzad nigla de Torah. They say the question of Chassidus is not a new question mebachutz. That the vos epes do we make Simchas Torah on Simchas Torah and not on Shavuos. Dafka when we look into the Inyan al pi nigla and we understand what we explained before, the Eisim Simcha l'Gemara Shel Torah, dafka over here is this aid of the question. What's the Teichen Inyan? We explained before that the Torah brings what's the Teichen of the Inyan of Simchas Torah, that Eisim Simcha l'Gemara Shel Torah. What's the makar of the idea of Eisim Simcha l'Gemara Shel Torah? So like we explained before, from the Beis Yosef, he brings the Medrash, the story with Shlomo HaMelech. Let's think for a second, what was the story with Shlomo HaMelech? Shlomo HaMelech had a dream that the Eibishter gave him Chachma, and he wakes up in the morning and he sees that the Chalim that he saw, that the Eibishter benched him with the Inyan of Chachma, was in the sky and b'melua. The haraya that he sees that there's nothing in the world which is hidden from him. At kedei kach that he even understands the sprach of the chayis. So right away, Shlomo HaMelech runs to Yerushalayim and makes a celebration to thank the Eibishter. We learn that Eisim Sudul L'Gemara Shel Torah. In this story that the Beis Yosef brings, do we see that Shlomo HaMelech went and he practiced and he internalized until at kedei kach that he mastered every single chachma in the world? It was right away the first thing in the morning. He right away ran to Yerushalayim. So what was the celebration of what Shlomo HaMelech did? And the Gemara and the Medrash told us that it's not some a celebration of a special gift that the Eibishter gave him. It was a gift of the Gemara Shel Torah, that the entire Torah was given to him. Because over here the Varta is, although that Shlomo HaMelech says, I didn't internalize it all and I didn't practice it all, and I didn't master it all necessarily, nevertheless, from the fact that I see over here that the Eibishter gave it all to me, the Eibishter bestowed it all upon me, v'haraya, the at kedei kach that I see the way animals are speaking, so therefore I understand that there's be'etzem, nothing which is beyond me, it's all in my possession, it's all something that I could acquire because it's something which was given to me, so be'etzem I have the whole thing already. So the gemar of the Inyan, the completion of the Inyan, I have already. In other words, what's the Eisim Seud L'Gemara Shel Torah which Shlomo HaMelech practiced? He made such a celebration, L'Gemara of learning, of being taught the entire Torah. He understood that within this Chalin that the Eibishter gave him and benched him with Chachma, he understood that Medem, the Eibishter gave him the entire Torah. So therefore, he made us Seud L'Gemara Shel Torah because B'etzem, the entire Torah was given to him already. And now, what then? He has to bring it out. So in other words, so what's the definition of L'Gemara Shel Torah mitzad nigla? That we celebrate the completion of the giving of the entire Torah. The same thing should be also b'negei to Shavuos. What's the word b'negei to Shavuos? In Shavuos, there are two elements. There's one in Shavuos, that Shavuos is like we say in davening, Zman Matan Torah Seinu. What's the pshat Zman Matan Torah Seinu b'pashtus? That the Eibishter gave us then the Torah, starting with the Aseres HaDibris, and the fact that the Eibishter gave us then the Torah, starting with the Aseres HaDibris, therefore it's a Yom Tif, and therefore we celebrate the Inyan of Zman Matan Torah Seinu. What's that celebration? That's a celebration that we started learning the Torah. The way there's a beautiful Sicha that's brought over here in the Ha'ara from the Frierdiker Rebbe, that Tzemach Tzedek said that the Seudah that we make on Shavuos is not just Tamas Seudah, but Seudas Yom Tiv, no, it's a Seudas Mitzvah. What's the Seudas Mitzvah? The same way we see by a child, that when a child has a bris milah, when he's nichnas tachas kanfei hashchina, we make a Seudas Mitzvah. And al derech the minig is that when a child goes into cheder and he starts learning Torah, he starts learning Kamatz Alafah. We make a Seudas Mitzvah from the fact that he started learning Torah. So on Shavuos, the 600,000 Yidden started learning from the Eibishter, from their Melamed, Kamatz Alafah, the Kamatz Alafah, V'nei Hashem Elokecha. So it's not just Stam, an Inyan of a Yom Tif, nor it's Inyan of a Seudas Mitzvah that we started learning Torah. That's one Inyan in Shavuos. That's the celebration of Shavuos as Ma'amat and Teira Seinu. The Shaila of Chassidus is that in Shavuos there's another Nekuda. In Shavuos, there shouldn't only be a simcha from the fact that the Torah was given. On Shavuos, there should be a separate simcha from the fact that on Shavuos is the L'Gemara Shel Torah. Where on Shavuos is the simcha of L'Gemara Shel Torah? Because it's known the word, the verti from the Psad Yigon, and Asher brings it down by Pirusha El Torah, that in the Aseret HaDibris, it wasn't just that B'Shas Matan Torah, the Eibishter gave us 10 Dibris. Or in the Aseret HaDibris is Nichlal, Kol HaTorah Kula. The says that Be'etzen, the B'Shas Matan Torah, the Eibishter didn't just give us 10 Dibris, das chalas neachnasas l'cheder, the comments alafah behelem b'pnimius the Matan Torah, the Eibishter gave us the entire Torah. So just like by Shlomo Melech's chalim, in the fact that he woke up in the morning and he saw the wisdom that the Eibishter gave him, he understood that over here is included b'pnimius behelem all the chachmas shebe'elam. Al derech said the same exact thing in B'Shas Matan Torah. B'Shas Eibishter gave us the Aseret HaDibris, so we have the Simcha Gluya from the fact that we have 10 Dibris from the Aschalas Hachnasas L'Cheder. That's one inyan in Shavuos. But the Chassidus asks, but there should be a deeper inyan in Shavuos. We should make the Gemara Shel Torah Dafka Shavuos, because in the Aseret HaDibris everything is Nichlal over here. Never then it's Behelim. So Chazal tells us, Hafachba the Kulaba, a Yid has to heart of it, a Yid has to learn, and a Yid has to bring out Menahelim Elagili, what was given to us already B'Shas Matan Torah. But it was given to us already B'Shlemus B'Shas Matan Torah, just like all the Chachmas was given to Shleim L'Chatchila. So this is the Shaila. So the Shaila Chassidus, why do we make Sichas Torah on Shmini Atzeres, Sichas Torah, L'Chud, we should make it on Shavuos, is Dafka Mitzad the Bir and Nigla. Dafka because of the Pashtus. What's the inyan of Sichas Torah? L'Gemara Shel Torah. The way Shleima did it, the Amitis inyan of the Gemara Shel Torah is Dafka Shavuos and not Simchas Torah. What happened? Simchas Torah is Sachaka that we brought it out Menahelim Elagili. But when was it given to us? When was it given to us complete? That was given to us Dafka Shavuos. So Shavuos there should be this Ma'amat and Teira Seinu of the giving of the Torah, and Shavuos should also be Simchas Torah for the Gemara of the Gemara Nesina that the Eibishter gave us the entire Torah. That's the emek of the Shaila that Chassidus asks. What's the beard in them? What's taka the answer? So the beard in them is also moving b'pashtus. In order to be able to establish a simcha and a gvisir inyan, it's self-understood that the simcha then has to be b'shlemus. B'shas a person has simcha from a gvisir inyan, and together with that simcha, there's also a great sar. Not, for example, let's say someone gets a very big Yerusha, right? So besides the fact that he got a very big Yerusha, therefore he should be happy. But at the same time, there's a big tsar in getting the Yerusha. L'mashal, we tell him that you have to this Yerusha in your possession, but nevertheless, you can't use it. You can't have it now. And you're going to have to wait, and maybe even wait a while until you'll be able to use it. So you won't be able to make the complete simcha from the fact that he got this great Yerusha, this great matana, because although he's definitely happy from the fact that he got it and he got it all, but from that aspect, about it, it's not something that he can rejoice entirely because he's pained from the fact that he doesn't have it now. So therefore, the simcha that he has is not a simcha b'shleimusa. When can we establish the great simcha from receiving this inyan is dafka when the simcha in the inyan is dafka b'tachas hashleimus. What's the pshat in Negel Inyaneinu? So Negel Inyaneinu is a pashta zach. Chazal tell us that when this person gets something without a vedi v'yigiyah, when a person gets something for free, so then ein echanam you got a gvisa matana. But nevertheless, we call it, Chazal called it Namid Chsuf, it's called Fashemte bread, it's called bread of embarrassment. Why is it embarrassed? L'churi got a piece of bread. What's the embarrassment over here? It's because the Teva b'nei Adam is, that what the Eibusha was matbiyah, the Teva Anushi is, that Adam reitze b'kav shalei yesim tishakav mishal chaveri. A person would rather take much less. Kav echad, the gabi 9 kavim is bein arich less. It's much, 9 is only a dugma, even more than 9. That a person would rather have a drop of his own, more than something, than a lot that he gets from his chaver. So that's the teva ha'adam, the dafkin kav shalei. A person wants kav shalei yesim tishakav mishal chaveri. Why? Because something which you get from your chaver, something that you get to umzist, that you get for free without a vedi v'yigiyah, it's something which is fashemt. It's something which a person doesn't have the ultimate tainugin. Not only doesn't he have the ultimate tainugin, he's embarrassed from the fact that he has his friend had to give it to him, and it's something that he couldn't accomplish on his own. The teva ha'adam is the dafkin kav shalei, dafkin something which he heard of it done and he acquired and it's really his. That's something where the person has the complete and ultimate simcha. Although the kamas is which is a lot less. What's the nekuda negel inyaneinu? Ein hachinami, the b'shas shvuos, there's not only the nesinas ateda, b'shas shvuos, there's the gemara ateda. There are taka two elements in shvuos. The gemara ateda is taka there in shvuos, just identical to the way it was by Shlema. The entire teda that Absad Yagoin was given to us on shvuos taka. Nevertheless, why don't we make then the simcha l'gemara shel teda? Because this entire teda which was given to us, B'shas Matan Teda, although the entire Teda that was given to us B'shas Matan Teda is in a darg and nihilus made, al derech Tisha Kavim, nevertheless it's Tisha Kavim shel Chavede. It's something which the Eibishter bestowed upon us Mumayla, Kishmekinu Matan Teda. It was something which was given to us Mumayla, and it's not something which we acquired and we heard of it on our own, and therefore it's something which is forbidden with Dichsuf, something which is forbidden with embarrassment. So therefore, a Yid can't come, Shvuos, and come to say he's ready to dance, not only from the fact that the Eibishter took him into Cheder, that the Eibishter started teaching him Kol Kametz Alafah, that he's ready to dance because he has over here the entire Teda, Ein Chanami, he has the entire Teda, he has the entire Yerusha, but he can't rejoice upon it now, because it's a Mu'ud of Bitzar. There's the Chsufa, there's the embarrassment. From the fact that it's only something which is coming Mil Maila, it's not something which is on Avedi V'Yigiyah. Davke b'shas shmini atzeres simchas Teda. Davke b'shas a Yid learned through the entire Teda that he himself on his own went from last year from Bereshis and he got all the way to V'zeis HaBracha and he learned through the entire Teda the Aveda which is demanded in the Inyan of Limud HaTeda, in the Inyan of Kriyas HaTeda. He did it on his own, something which came from his own initiative. So although you can't compare it to the completion of the Teda that the Eibishter gave him, it's only kav echad l'gabe tisha kavim. Nevertheless, the Teda which was given, the Gemar which was there on Shavuos, is Chavede, and therefore it's not Adam Reitze Bazeh. What is the Adam Reitze? Dafka in the Kav Shalei, even though it's a Kav Echad, it's much less, but we about that it's something which is forbidden with his own Aveda, his own Yigiyah, therefore over there he Dafka has the Tachlis HaTainug and the Tachlis HaSimcha. And therefore the Simcha of the Gemara Shal Teda is Dafka in Shmini Atzeres and not on Shavuos. I l'chura the Kasha was when get to Shlema. It's a different topic. But again, when could you come to say that Adam Leitze b'kav shalei yesim tisha kam shachaveri? It's shaykh to say like this: in an inyan which I'm shaykh to acquire on my own, and I get it from my chaver, I get it mil maila. So we say that a person would much rather have less from what he acquired on his own, rather from that was given him from chaveri, from an external source. The medvar mamurim, you could say such a klal in an inyan which is be'erech, in an inyan which b'chlal shaykh to say kav shalei. In an inyan which is b'chlal not shaykh to say kav shlei, for example, shleim is chachma, that we're talking about understanding the sprach of chayis and such type of chachmas. So these are things that a person, not to try, a person could have on it and he'll have it a little bit. He'll have it in the al kapanim and kav echad. These are things which are b'chlal not in the erech of a person b'chlal. So therefore, by Shemnegei Shleim, it's not shaykh to say kav echad tisha kav. It's all shal chaved. It's all something which is only shaykh to be given in Mumayla. So that over there, when to get the shleima past, then when should Taka make the simcha? He should make Taka the simcha when to get to when there was completed given to him, because the completion of being given to him, because the whole gather of chachma shleima is only an inyan which comes Mumayla. It's not something which is forbidden b'chal with Avedas Adam. Masha'en came when we speak when to get to Teda, the Teda is such an inyan which is not stam shaykh to us. The Eibishter gives it to us in such an ape that he wants us to have in it, he wants us to understand it, he wants us to learn it, he wants us to be Messiah in it, he wants us to be involved in it. So over here it's shaykh the inyan of kav shalei. So now comes the shaila, when should we make the simcha of the Gemar? So what does Chassidus teach us? That the Einachanami, there's two Gemars. There's the Gemar of Shavuos, and there's the Gemar of V'zeis HaBracha of Simchas Torah. There's the Gemar of Milmaila, of the Gemar Nesinas HaTorah, and there's the Gemar of the Limud HaTorah. And Einachanami, we say that the Gemar of the Nesinas HaTorah is Tisha Kabim. Masha'ink in the Gemara, your own Limud HaTorah is only Kav Echad. From that way, Adam Leitz b'kav shalei yesim tisha kabim shachaveri. And therefore, the great Simcha and the establishment of the Simcha was dafke given in the inyan of Simchas Torah. So in other words, so what's the oimik of the inyan of Eisim Simcha l'Gemara Shal Torah? What's the neshama on the roof? What's the oimik in the roof? What's the chayis in the roof? L'Gemara Shal Torah. It's not just time that the Torah was finished, the Torah was complete. That we had Shavuos already. Eisim Simcha l'Gemara Shal Torah the taich. That a yid is misameach from the fact that he learned Torah, from the fact that he finished Torah. But if he's there, we understand that dafkin kav shalei zamitis hasimcha. So Lefizeh, we would be able to establish that Shavuos should also have the mile of Kav Shalei. In simple words, we would be able to make the takana of limud HaTeira, Chazal would be able to misaken it, Moshe Rabbeinu would be able to misaken it in such a way that we read Teira from Shavuos to Shavuos. We anyway don't start reading Parshas Bereshis in Rosh Hashanah. We start a month into the year. We start Erev Shabbos B'Barkim Cheshvan. So why do we have to learn Teira in such a way that we go from Bereshis? So Simchas Teira, the takana could have been that we read Teira every year. We start Bereshis on Shavuos, and that would be appropriate because that's the time that the Teira was given. So it's only appropriate then to start learning the Teira. And we would conclude the Teira every year on Shavuos a year later. And like that, Shavuos would have all three milas. Shavuos is the aim of Ma'amat and Teira Seinu. So therefore, all the milas for Bundim with Shavuos should have been in Shavuos. All the milas for Bundim with Teira should have been in Shavuos. Mila number 1 is Ma'amat and Teira Seinu, Achnasas L'Cheder, starting learning comments Alafa. That's one Inyan in Shavuos, the Shavuos that we praven now. Another Inyan in Shavuos would be that it's the Gmad of the Nesinas HaTeira, but we wouldn't be able to make a Simcha out of that, a great Simcha out of that, because it's for Tisha K'am Shachaveri. And then we would have a third Inyan in Shavuos, that would be the time that we would conclude the Teira, and like that we would have also the Maila of Kav Shalei, the Maila of Avedas Adam. Why didn't Chazal misaken it in such an eifin? This is the word of the Luchas Achrenas. This is the aimik when it says in the Maimarim that why do we celebrate Simchas Teira on Shmini Atzeres, that it's not inside the Luchas Elishen, it's inside the Luchas Achrenas. What's the pshat in the roof? The entire beer that we're explaining over here is that we're taking it for a given, is that there's dafka adam reitz b'kav shalei yesim tisha kam shachaveri, that there's dafka the maila of what a person's misyagea b'keach atzmei. Vu kum terayin b'chlal, this idea that a person should be misyagea, that there should be the idea of aveda b'keach atzmei and teira. Teira is the Eibish's teira. Teira is something which the Chal give it us mil maila. You want to come to say that a person in worldly inyanim has more of a tainug in kav shalei, verstandig. The world of Avadas Nasan live Niyad, the world is our domain, the world is our place. So when a person initiates and creates in Yanim Artsim, in Yanim Gashmim, that's his place, that's where he feels that he could that he could achieve and he could add. When you're speaking about the Yanim of Teira, vi pas bechlal, that Teira should be such an Indian that there's the Shaykh the Avedas V'Giyas Adam, that is Shaykh the Chiddush of an Adam. Adem Zak when Ein Achram is takanat Shaykh. The entire concept of Teira and Yigiyas Adam are talking two separate concepts. Teira is something which is given to us Mulmaila. Masha'en Ken Avedas Adam is something which has to do with the person's initiative. And that's not something which Kleptarain and Teira. But Medvadim Amudim, you're right when you're speaking about Luchas Harishenis. Luchas Harishenis was in such an eifin, like we mentioned before, the Chazal, that it was Al Tikir Charas Al Luchas, Al Tikir Charas Al Chedus, the B'shas, the Gila, the Kus of Luchas HaAchrenis, which Luchas HaAchrenis was, Sai the Avanim was Ma'aseh Elikim, and Sai the Michtav was Michtav Elikim. It was an Akudah which was Kol Kuli Gila Milamayla, and that was Poyel, the bitl of the Ran, the bitl of the Ummah Zebetachlis. So in the Chanamim, Tzad that Nekudah which came Kol Kuli Milamayla, there's no art for Yigiyas V'Avedas Adam. The chiddush of Luchas Achrenis is explained to Chassidus Barichis. V'yagid l'cha talum is chachma kiflaim l'tishia, that the Eibusher told Moshe Rabbeinu al tistayir b'rishenim. Don't feel bad for the fact that he broke the Luchas Harishenis, because in Luchas Harishenis there was only chamisha chumshe teira, and maybe nach a bissel. Masha'en kein in Luchas Achrenis there's kiflaim l'tishia. Kiflaim doesn't only mean double. Kiflaim means be'en arech more. There's mikra and agoda and halacha v'chulu v'chulu. I'm sorry, mishnah and agoda and halacha. In other words, the entire inyan of Teira Shebal Peh, the entire initiative of Teira Shebal Peh, which the vart of Teira Shebal Peh is that a yid learns Teira. And kol mashatamud vasig asad l'chadish, that there's a concept of yigia and chidush b'Teira. This idea that Teira was given over to the domain of Bnei Adam, that they should hardev and they should be misyageya and they should be mechadish b'Teira, that nekuda was nizgali in Luchas Achrenis. And that's the chidush of what Luchas Achrenis gave us, the chidush of yigia and the chidush b'Teira. So Lufizah comes out that the beard of the Maimarim and the beard of Chassidus not only isn't an external beard, forget that's the neshaman, that's the emik, that's the chayes of the beard up in Nigla. The way when the Yid comes, he wants to know what Shmini Atzeres is. What's Simchas Teira? Why are we so happy? Shteit in Shulchan Aruch, why are we so happy? Simcha l'Gemara Shel Teira. Chassidus is the chayes and the pnimis of every single Inyan. What's the emik? What are we so excited in the Gemara Shel Teira? That you finished, that the Inyan is agiton? What's the excitement over here? The excitement is that not just time that the Inyan complete, not just time that the Inyan is finished, no, what's the emik of the Simcha and Gemara Shel Teira? That the Inyan is my Inyan. That's the Simcha and the Gemara Shel Teira. That it's Kav Shalei, that it's something that came through the Yigiyas Adam. Where was this Chadish, this idea, that a person has the ultimate simcha in dafkin kav shalei, dafkin yigiyas ha'adam, where that there's a concept of yigiyas ha'adam in Torah, that's luchas ha'achrenis. That's something which was given to us dafka yim kippur, dafka something which comes beside avedis hamata. So kumtes lefizah that the beard of the Maimarim, the beard of Chassidus in the Indian of luchas ha'achrenis, that's dafka the emek and the pnimis of what it says in Nigla, that it's a simcha of the Gemara Shel Torah. But this still needs more of a chayis and more of an emek and more of an explanation, because the entire yisod of what was explained till now, that what's the simcha of Simchas Torah, the way Chassidus explains the nigla, is that it's a chayis in Torah which is verbunden mit avedas v'yigiyas ha'adam. And what's the yisod in the roof? The yisod is in the roof, the teva ha'adam, that adam reitz b'kav shalei yesim tisha kavan shel chaveri. Aber l'chura ha gufa tzarech bir. This whole yisod that adam reitz b'kav shalei yesim tisha kavan shel chaveri, that's gufa inyan of teva. That's gufa inyan the way the welt is ausgestalt in teva adam. What's good for the beer in the roof? In other words, what's the fact is like that. So we say that the teva is that a person wants kav shalei. So therefore, the tachas is simcha dafka when he learns the Torah. What's taka but the beer that adam reitz b'kav shalei dafka? So then come the tif for the beer that we come to say even deeper. That what's the vart of Shmini Atzeres? What's the celebration of Torah? It's the simcha dafka of luchas achrenis. And what's the mile of luchas ha'achrenis? Not the mile of luchas ha'achrenis is dafka the inyan of tshuva. The inyan of tshuva is not a new beer. It's not a different beer. That we say that there's kaviyachal. There's two inyanim in the simcha of Simchas Torah. There's the simcha of the Gemara Shel Torah, b'tzat kav shalei, and then there's another inyan, the inyan of tshuva. The beer that Chassidus gives, that what's the milas of the luchas ha'achrenis that we explained before. The dafka and the luchas ha'achrenis was neschadish the inyan of yigiyah and chiddush b'teira. Where's the oimik, where's the havana, where's the yisod that inyan brought out, b'tachas ha'shleimus, that's dafka brought out in the inyan of tshuva. What's the word of tshuva? So in order to understand the word, the oimik over here of the inyan of tshuva, would be kedai to give a agdama abyssal from a different inyan, and lefizeh will be able to understand what's the oimik over here in the beard of the inyan of tshuva. We explained before that the teva adam is that adam reitz b'kav shalei yesim tisha kavan shel chaveri. So it's you do with the question that the Rebbe asks that l'chura, that gufa is a inyan in teva ha'adam. Teva ha'adam is something which the Eibishter made. So therefore, this gufa needs an explanation. Why gufa did the Eibishter make the world in such an eifin that adam reitz b'kav shalei yesim tisha kavan shel chaveri? So the beard, the way it is b'derech klal, the famous beard that the Rebbe is mazbid for bringing of Yiral Fis and Tav Shalom at Beis is that the aimik of is that we bow that Yisrael with Kutche Brichu is kul echad. That the aimik of Yid is that it's kul echad with the Eibishter mamash. Merer therefore, deeper therefore. That this the kul that Yid is kul echad with the Eibishter is not just something which is in the back burner, something which is in his etzem ametzias, in his pnimis hanefesh. The Eibishter wanted that this Nekud of Yisrael, that a Yid is Kul Echad with Eibishter, should be something which should be nizgalan, should be something which should be brought out to the forefront, it should be something which should be seen. Where do we see who can nizgalan in this idea that Yid is Kul Echad with Eibishter? So the shayla is, what's Kutche Brichu? What does the Likus mean? So the simple definition that we have, that a person can understand by Pasha that there is between Beta and Nivra is, that what's the pshat nivra? Nivra means that he was made. What's the pshat that he's made? Made, the pshat is that you're not something which is from inside yourself, that your whole mitzvah comes from someone else. So in other words, to say the word nivra in different words means that you're a makabel. That's what nivra means, that you get your etzem mitzvah not from yourself, from something shebechutz memenu. Masha'enkin, what's the word beta? Beta, the pshat is, what's pshat? He makes everything, that he's the mashpia, that mimicha hakel, that everything comes from him. That we come to say that a Yid is not something which is made by the Eibishter like Kol HaNivraim. Notice he's Kul Echad with the Eibishter, he's Kul Echad with Kutche Brichu. So where is that brought out? That same way, what's Kutche Brichu? What's the Eibishter? The Eibishter is Beta. In other words, the Eibishter is the Mashpia. Same thing is also when a Yid would be brought out this idea that a Yid is not a Makabel. When a Yid is a Makabel, then he's like the rest of the Nivraim. He can be Makabel more, he can be Makabel greater. But when the Yisod of his Metzias is that he's a makabel, then he's like a nivra. He's not kul echad with the Eibishter. Where would be brought out that a yid is kul echad with the Eibishter when a yid is not just makabel, when a yid is mashpia? The Baal that the Eibishter wants to bring out that a yid is kul echad with the Eibishter. Therefore, he created the world l'chatchila, that the entire world was b'shul Yisrael, He created a world with such a teva, that the teva ha'adam is, that adam reitz b'kav shalei yesim tishakav shechaveri. Through instilling these rules and this nature into the world, what happens is that a person has the drive, a person has the initiative, that although seemingly he could do much better by being a makabel, tishakabim, he could get over here. The nature of the person is, the nature of the yid is, that pushes him to dafka work on his own. To dafka be misyageh on his own. Adam l'amu yulad. Why? Because dafka over here, we brought out that it's kaf shalei, that it's something that have his own initiative. In other words, that a yid, he won't be a makabel. Being a makabel is something which is against his nature. The etzem of a yid is that he's chadat eibishter. He's a mashpia, he's not a makabel. So when he's being makabel, when he's getting tishkam shel chaved, it's tichsufa. Hashem sich mit dermit. It's something which is against his etzem ametzias. Dafka kav shalei, over here is brought out his mohus, that is kula chad with the eibishter, and therefore he's not only a makabel, he's a mashpia also. Ubelashon Chazal, that a yid should be shutif la'kadosh baruch hu b'maaseh bereishis, and therefore a person has to drive the initiative dafka in kav shalei. That's the beard that the Rebbe explains in the Farbrengen of Yud Nisan Lamed Beis. Nevertheless, this beard still has a certain chesaron. It doesn't bring out the inyan l'chura b'tachas hashleimus. Why? Because when I come to say that where it's brought out that a yid is kula chad with the eibishter, that he's a shutuf with the eibishter, in the fact that he has a drive, that he has a tainuk dafkin kav shalei. So ain't a chanami that a person initiates and he makes not only a makabel, but what's machtar shein? What's he making? He's making what's the little bit that a person makes in Yonah Vagashmi or in Yonah Baruchnim? How does that have a comparison to what the Eibishter made? The Eibishter creates the entire world, all the elements in this world, v'chulu v'chulu. And a Yid makes a kav echad, and by making a kav echad, you become a shutif. A shutif, the pshat is, the amitzin of shutif is that you have two people that are equal partners. That's what shutis means. Shutis doesn't mean that one person owns 99.99% and the other one has a fraction. That's not a mitzvah in shutis. Shutis, the pshat is that the two partners have to be completely equal. In our what's the pshat that a yid and the eibush have to be l'chura completely equal, and that's not brought out in the inyan of kav shalei. In the pashtustic meaning of one bundle of kav shalei. Where is yet brought out that mitzvah inyan of shutzvis, which is that Yisrael and Kosher B'richu is chad? Adem zakman, that's the inyan of tshuva. B'makom shabali tshuva aimed in dafka in the vart of tshuva, dafka in the ma'ila of tshuva. Over here is brought out that mitzvah shutzvis that a yid has with the Eibishter, the way ki'ilu it's b'shava mamish, and through that over here is brought out that mitzvah inyan of Yisrael and Kosher B'richu is kul chad. Where's that brought out in the inyan of Baal Tshuva dafka? So in order to understand this, we have to explain what's the yisad achiluk between the klolos ha'aveda, the way a tzaddik serves the Eibishter, or the klolos ha'aveda, the way a Baal Tshuva serves the Eibishter. And the difference in a tzaddik and a Baal Tshuva is sai b'negiyat ha'aveda be'atzmei ve'im atzmei, the way that within themselves and by themselves how they build their relationship with Elikus, and sai the way both of them fear and durch the kavanah of Yidus and Hashem Lamata in the kavanas Abri and Klaus Eilam. How do they both get involved in fulfilling the Eibish's purpose? B'chal and Klaus Eilam. So here we see a yisaydistic chiluk between the Aveda of the Tzaddik and the Aveda of the Baal Tshuva. Let's start with the Tzaddik. The Tzaddik serves the Eibush in such a way that he learns Teireh, he's Mekayim mitzvahs, he's Mamshech Likus through doing mitzvahs, he connects to the Eibush through doing mitzvahs. Nevertheless, this nekuda that a yid does teiro mitzvahs, now there's no chiddush in the roof. Fakert. Not the pasuk tells us Elokim Ada Asa Adam Yasher. That's why the Eibishter created the person l'chatchila. That says the teva of a yid, the teva of yid's neshama, like the Piskim Hayidua, as a yid nishta reveal nishta ken zechab reisa from the Eibishter. So a yid, the neshama wants to do teiro mitzvahs, and he's a normal person that didn't let the nefesh bahamis, the external powers within the person, take him over. So therefore, he's serving the Eibishter mitzad the way he was made, the way Yid has to be mitzad his neshama, and the way the neshama is created, that his teva is, his mitzias is, that he wants to do the ratzon of the Eibishter. Nachmer, before the neshama comes down lamata, the Braisa tells us mashbin eisei ti tzadik v'al teirasha, and Chassidus explains what's the pshat mashbin eisei, not just tam as mebashvertim that we make a shvua, no mashbin lashon seva mezetek timnon. In other words, we give the neshama all the koiches that he'll be able to, that they'll need to be able to stand, to beistein, the nisyenis that there are coming down in the Haza Agashmi, and therefore we equipped him with the energy to be able to fulfill this task. And what's the mile of this neshama? What's the mile of this tzaddik? That he does the task that he's meant to do, and he does it to complete. He does it b'tachas hashleimus. But nevertheless, essentially, what's he doing? He's fulfilling. He's a chatchila. He's. But it's only something that he brought out. It's his nature, and he had the power to do so l'chatchila, and he utilized it. He didn't have an initiative of his own. That's benegeh to aveidei matzmi. Al derech benegeh in welt. We say that the kavanas abriya is that in Sara Kadosh Baruch Hu lisli did it b'tachtenim. What's the pshat did it b'tachtenim? So the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya Barichis that the did it b'tachtenim cannot be in inyanim of shalosh klippus atmeis. Inyanim of shalosh klippus atmeis are such inyanim that you can't be maila. Nor la'asad lavei v'sruach hatova avim minaris. But something that a yid can be maila the avidase. What's the mission of the yid? To take inyanim which are in klippus neiga, it takes inyanim which do have kedusha in them, inyanim yereshus, and to utilize them, shem shemayim, chod rechacha de'eyu, for teiro mitzvahs, and to utilize them and make them a dira for the Eibishter. The says another verse. So what does the tzaddik do? The tzaddik takes an element of the world which lechatchila had the potential to be a dira, because it was an inyan of reshus, it was an inyan of nega. It had the potential to be a dira. It had kedusha in it lechatchila, and the tzaddik utilizes those inyanim l'shem the milia kavan of dira b'tachtenim. That's taka the kavan of dira b'tachtenim. The kavan of dira b'tachtenim, the way it's bepashtus is. The way the Eibishter was Megalis Kavana in Torah is dafka not to use in Yonim of Gimel Klippus, the dafka to use in Yonim of Yonim Yereshus. So ein lechanam the tzaddik is memalad the tafkid and the mission of Dirib Tachtein bepashtos b'shleimus. Nevertheless, it's all an Indian. He makes a dira in such a tachton which lechatchila the tachton had the ability to be able to be a dira for the Eibishter. So in other words, just like in Navedim Atzmei, he brings out Onim and Ahelim Alagili on Achidish. So same thing is also in the gay in Welt. He brings out the potential that the world had to be able to be a dira for the Eibush L'Chatchila. It's not an Inyan of a Chiddush. So in other words, what does that mean? The Eimek Inyan. Then a tzaddik is not a mashpia. A tzaddik is a makabel. The teva he had, the koiches he had, the world had the potential from before also, and he Sachako brings it menahelim alagilui. So that's not a mashpia. He doesn't initiate on his own. The Eibishter makes everything, and the tzaddik develops it. So that's not a mashpi, that's not a shutuf at all. Never mind, it's only a little bit of a shutuf. It's called kuliyah makabel. So in the Aveda of a tzaddik is not brought out this nekuda that a yid is a shutuf, that a yid is kulachad with Eibishter. What's about tshuva? About tshuva is another inyan. Chato pagam ba'avas haderech. He doesn't have the gilei likus which there is in mitzvahs. So if he doesn't have the gilei likus which there is in mitzvahs, how is the about tshuva this eida ba'atzmei to return to the Eibishter? In the Balshuva, it's not shaykh that there should be an inyan of a gilim ulmayla mitzad mashpia. It's something which he's agudising from. He ripped himself away from it. He was paid to kill Malchus Shemayim. Where's the Balshuva's initiative come from? The Balshuva's initiative comes from himself. It comes from him. It comes from his depth, from his mamakim. It comes from the emek of his mitzias. In other words, the Balshuva is connected to the Eibishter. It's not something which is built on the channels and the links that the Eibishter provided to be connected to him. The Balshuva created a new way to be connected to the Eibishter from his depth, from his emek. He was mechadish, a new kasha that there is mitzvah shabrichel. And I decided goes back and he goes weiter to be mekayim in yanim of Torah mitzvahs. Nevertheless, the Aveda of the tzaddik, the Aveda of the Balshuva in the Inyanim of Torah mitzvahs, the energy that he has in Torah mitzvahs is not the regular energy that there is in Torah mitzvahs. No, the Aveda of the Balshuva in Torah mitzvahs is b'chela sagi, b'chela yativ. It's with a different energy of what a regular mitzvah contains. In other words, he brings in his own new chayis, his own new tzimoin, and his own nzveikus that there is in Torah mitzvahs. Something which he initiates called kuli on his own. That's the way it is mitzad Balshuva in Aveda b'keach atzmei. And nachmer or nachtifer, when we speak, when we get to the mili of kavan of dirib tachtenim, so the Gemara tells us that when a tzad, when about tshuva, does tshuva meyava, says the Gemara that zdein is nasle kezachias. So over here is not the place to go into the adichas inyan of zdein is nasle kezachias. But what yan or ein vartnar, the zdein is nasle kezachias, it's obviously not chas v'sholem that the aveda is nasle kezachias, because that's something which is heipach ratzon ha'elyin. And like we said before, v'esruach hatuv v'avim miraretz. But in this dayness, there are netzutzas of Kedusha. And when we come to say that the Inyanim went into Shalosh Klippus Atzmeis, it doesn't mean only Inyanim which are Be'etzim Inyanim of Shalosh Klippus Atzmeis. The Chayes Aliki that was in the Inyanim of Ra, there were Be'etzim Inyanim of Alikus, and through the Maisa Aved of a person, the person took these Inyanim, these netzutzas of Kedusha, and those netzutzas he brought down, that they should become Shalosh Klippus Atzmeis.
What's the pshat? Zdeinis nasle kezachi. Zdeinis nasle kezachi. Chassidus teaches that those nitzutzis kedusha become zachis kibinis ala again and be elin alikus. And what's the emek in the roof is? The emek in the roof is that the zdain, the nitzutzis kedusha that went into shalosh klippus atzimeis and become through the aveda of tshuva, they could come back and come back to be a likus, that they don't come back to be a likus the way in Yonim of Torah mitzvahs are in Yonim of a likus, in Yonim of L'Shem Shemayim or in Yonim of a likus, V'chol Derechach in Yonim of a likus. It's a different eichus of Zachis L'gamri because it comes dafka menacheshach. So we say Yisra and Eir menacheshach dafka. These dainis are on a different eichus, on a different amal L'gamri. Which Derech Agav, the Rebbe once explained in Rav Abring in a very geschmack of art. The Gemara says that the Ha'emer Echt of the Ashuv is aim speaking biyadi lasis tshuva. What's the taich b'pashtus? Why aim speaking biyadi lasis tshuva? Because why did he do the aveda? Because v'ashuv. So in other words, the aveda was the tshuva was the sibba for the aveda. So if the tshuva was the sibba for the aveda, so ain't kategen lasis saneger. You can't have that the tshuva which brought him to do the aveda should be the one which is mischaper on the aveda. That's the pashtus. What how we taich that aim echt of yashu aim speaking biyadi lasis tshuva. So the Rebbe asked l'chura leibe shuftin eskinan. It's a shtus. To understand what we just explained, that ain't kategen asas haneger. So why does the Gemara have to tell you? You should know. It's a davar pasha. Why would I think otherwise? For the fact that Gemara tells me something, there has to be a kimta. There has to be something a kamashmal that the Gemara is telling me over here. No, what's the word in the roof? The word is punkt verkehrt. Not a imer echte v'ashuv. That the tshuva is the sibba for the Aveda, in a way. I can zindig, well, I can tshuva tanachdem, punkt farket. We're talking about Tzadik Gamur. And we told Tzadik Gamur that b'makar shabal tshuva eimim ain't tzadikim gemurim yechevim lamed sham. Because stafka through the Baal Tshuva, that's Dainis Naslik Zachias, Verta Zachias, another Eichis of Zachias Lagamri. Another Eifin of Zachias Lagamri. And the tzaddik feels that he's deprived from these zachis. He only has regular zachis. He has regular Torah mitzvahs, regular dinner b'tachtenim in Yoni Yereshus. Zach the tzaddik echte. Why echte? Va'ashuv in order to come to the mile of tshuva. Zach when emas b'kmiyad las is tshuva. In the regular frame of Torah mitzvahs, in the kavana of dinner b'tachtenim, the way it's brought down by parshas and Torah mitzvahs, there's no art for such a thing. It's only for someone chato pagav avas aderech he could they're lying in such a place. So ufta naya zachias. So what says this? What's the vart and agil in Yanenu? That the Baal Tshuva is someone which added kaviyachol. He made a chiddush in the close kavanas abriya. That in this that we say in the Savakadosh Baruch Hu's Lidir B'Tachtenim, so the way the kavan of Lidir B'Tachtenim was Nizgala mitzad the mashpia, mitzad the first shutif, mitzad the Eibishter, that he said, what's my intention that I want to do and which Tachtenim do I want to do? I want to do the dafkin in Yonim of Rishus and not in Yonim of Gimel Klippis. That's where I want my dita, like it's explained in other Maimorim, that b'min nimlach, b'min shmeseim shel tzadikim dafka the way that tzaddik, dafka the way it's in Yonim of Torah mitzvahs, comes the Baal Tshuva, the second shutif, and he says, ich will epes anders, ich will uftan anayis, that even in Yonim of his dainis, those also should become Zachias. Even in Yonim of Dusha, which fell into Shalosh Klippus Atzmeis, which my first shoot of the Eibishter says he doesn't want, and I'll be Mechadish, they're lying in Tifra, I'll bring out, inside the Eibishter Alim, inside Atmas Alein, there could be this Indian of Zainis Nasalei Zachias. These Nitzutzis could also belong to Tzadak Dusha. They could also become a dinner for the Eibishter. And not Sam Zachias, there will be a different Eichus and a different Eichus and a different Eifin of Zachias Lagamri, a new Eichus in the Indian of Dinner B'Tachtenim. Taking the Kavanah of Tak into a much further place, into a much greater place, that even such nitzutzis which fell to Gimel Kippus Atzmeis, those also should become a different eichos of a dinner to the Eibishter Lagamri. That's something which comes from the initiative of the Baal Tshuva, which is nishtan in the Gili of the Tachteinu in Teiro Mitzvahs. What's Nizgal over here? Over here is Nizgal da mitzin in a shutzvis. Over here is Nizgal da mitzin in a chiddush. That a Yid is mechadish by himself a new eifon of kasher to elikus, and a Yid is mechadish a new eimik in the close kavanas abriya of the B'Tachtenim. Dafka in the Baal Tshuva, Davet Nizgal da mitzin a shutzvis, that is taka equal shutzvis, and each one has an opinion, and a full opinion, and Dafka in them, Nizgal da mitzin in Yisrael Yisrael Mekutzah B'Richos Kul Echad. So if this is the eimik of the Indian of Tshuva, this is garden and shaman and nishmasa, this is the eimik of the Indian of Luchas Achrenis. We explained before that the what's the simcha of Gemara shel Teda, dafke the Gemara through Aveda, because it's kav shalei. Where was this gala the mile of kav shalei in Teda? Dafke in luchas achrenis. Dafke then was given the inyan of kefayim with the shir, the inyan of Yigiyah B'Teda. What's the oimik of the inyan of Yigiyah B'Teda? The Zokman Tshuva. That just the way in about Tshuva is this gala this nekudah is kul echad v'ta'ebishter, and therefore he's a shutif. Unagantza shutif. Ad kedei kach. That he can have in Yonah, that he's mechadish on his own, that's the same beer. You know why in Teda there's such a nekudah of Yigiyah B'Teda, and not just on there's an inyan of Yigiyah B'Teda. There's a nekudah of Chidush B'Teda, there's a chiyuv, la fashallah, there's a chiyuv that it should be mechadish in Teda. And Sugam in Teda, like the famous Gemara, Nitzchuni, Bana Nitzchuni, and that's why sometimes a Yid is called Chosin, and the Teda is called Kala, because a Yid is mashpia in Teda, like the famous Vartan in Simchas Teda. There are two Pirushim. There's one Pirush that Yidin flains sich with the Teda, that the Teda makes Yidin happy, and there's a deeper Pirush in Simchas Teda that the Yidin make the Teda happy, that a Yid's mechadish in Teda, he is mashpia in Teda. What's the oimik of that inyan? That was his gal and luchas achrenis. What's the oimik in that nekudah? The word of tshuva. That in luchas achrenis was his gal the word in tshuva. The Yisrael and the Kodesh Baruch Hu is chad, and therefore he's a full shutif, and that's the Zgala, sign the Aveda of Tshuva, that's Deinis Nasle Kazachis, and the Kol Kavanas Abriya, and sign the Inyan of Yigiyah and Chidush B'Teda. So to be Mesakim, in the Nekudas Abir comes out, the Dafka, the beer, the way it's explained in the Maimarim, that Dafka brings out the Eimik and the Pnimis of what Simchas Torah is all about. So let's learn again what Simchas Torah al Pi Nigla, and what Simchas Torah al Pi Chassidus, and we'll see that not only isn't it two biyurim, nor fakayat, it's a beer which is kul echad. Says in halacha that what's the inyan of Simchas Torah? The inyan, the Geidla Simcha that we do then is a Simcha L'Gemara Shel Torah. What's the Taich L'Gemara Shel Torah? So Chassidus is masbir to us that in L'Gemara Shel Torah there are two Gdarim. There's an inyan of L'Gemara Shel Torah the way it comes mitzad Mu'mayla, mitzad the Eibishter, mitzad the Tishakam Shel Chaveirei, the way the Mashpia could give it to you, not. And then you're only a Makabel, and when you're only a Makabel, Bnei Tzach Nishtaretz, the Amitis or inyan of what a Yid is, and what the Aveda of a Yid is, that a Yid is kol echad with the Eibishter. Over there isn't Amitis Inyan HaSimcha. Where is Dafka the Amitis Inyan HaSimcha? On Sichas Torah. And Dafka, there's the Luchas Achrenis, that the Luchas Achrenis from Megala, that there's an Akudah and a Yid, and there's an Akudah of Yigiyah B'Teda, there's an Akudah of Chidush B'Teda, that there's an Akudah that Yisrael is kol echad with the Eibishter, and therefore he's a Shutif from a ganze Shutif. And therefore, therefore, there's the mile of Yigi and Aveda B'Teda, the way it comes mitzad the Yid mitzad Atzmei. So that's the oimik of what I say. What's the pshat l'Gemara Shel Teda, the simcha of the Gemara Shel Teda, that a Yid finishes Teda, that a Yid hadav in Teda. What's the mile of a Yid finishing Teda? A Yid hadav in Teda. The dafka over here is Mizgala, that he's a shutif that is kul echad with the Eibishter. And that's in a kudah which is Mizgala number one in Tshuva. And that's the imik of Luchas Achrenis is, and that inyan is also done in Teda, the nekudah of Keflayim with the Shia, the inyan of Yigiyah B'Teda. Al-Pi Kol Zeh will understand why the Kriyas HaTeda of Simchas Torah is in V'zeis HaBracha and Parshas Bereishis. What do we read in V'zeis HaBracha? V'bal Hakal Heilach Achar Achitim, in the end of Parshas Bereishis, in Parshas Bracha, we read the way Moshe Rabbeinu, the last words of the Parsha, Le'enei Kol Yisrael, Zok Rasha, what's the pshat Le'enei Kol Yisrael? It's talking about the Shviras HaLuchis, that the Eibusha told Moshe Rabbeinu, Asher Shibarta, Yashkeach Shibarta. What's it talking about? It's talking about the Shvira of the Luchis HaRishenis. What was the Yashkeach and the Shviras HaLuchis HaRishenis? So people we learned over here will be very understood. Not that the Luchis HaRishenis was only in the mile of a Makabel. He wasn't in the mile of a Mashpia. B'shas Moshe Rabbeinu broke the Luchis and he was me'eder all Yidden to the inyan of tshuva. So that's the chareis gebracht is the kud of the mile of bali tshuva by Yidden, the mile of kav shalei, the mile of being mechadish. That's the chareis gebracht through the shviras haluchis. And as a matana to that, as a response to that, as a response to the tshuva and the chidush of a Yid, the Eibishter gave him the luchs achrenis. What's the luchs achrenis? The inyan of Yigiyah B'Teda, nitzchuni bana nitzchuni. There is a shutaf also in Teda. From that Kriyas HaTorah that we read the Maila of Shviras HaLuchis, so Chareis gebracht the Eimik of a Yid that is Kul Chadot Eibishter in the Inyan of Tshuva. We go on weiter to read Bereishis, What the Pshat Bereish is, Bara Lekim B'S Shemayim V'S'Aretz, that a Yid is Beira Shemayim V'Aretz. The Welt, the way it's B'Sad Atzmei, is something which is Ma'il Mamaster on the Eibishter. Comes a Yid on Simchas Torah, when he dances with the Torah, over here was Nizgala, that is Kula Chad with the Eibishter, as Eret Gehadavet in Torah, and Eret Gandet Torah, and therefore you can go and create a Shemayim Chadasha, V'Aretz Chadasha, such a world, and not only shouldn't it be a Welt of Helen V'Hefter, there should be such a Welt that it's Nirgashanim, Delekei Yisrael Melech, Mechutz L'Bekel Mashallah, that it's a Welt which is Nirgashanim, that is Hom Etzias, is B'Shul HaTorah, B'Shul Yisrael, that is Messiah Yayid, in the Aveda and Torah mitzvahs.